Happy morning, everyone. Here's the review of the 2016 RX 450h Hybrid. This is a crossover SUV. Most of you guys know what an RX is at this point. You see them everywhere, typically driven by 65-year-old white women. It's a wonderful vehicle. It exudes luxury, comfort. This one, in my opinion, has the best performance. On the spec sheet, it does go a little bit slower, 0 to 60, than the standard version, but I'll get into why later, why I like the performance of this one better. The looks of it are subjective. I personally hated the looks of this vehicle when it first came out. I'm like, it looks too much like a spaceship. Over time, so it's 2 years later when this car originally came out, so 2018 now, when I'm looking at the 2016, which looks identical to the 2018, man, it looks great in my opinion. I don't know if I'm a sucker because I have to sell these things, or I get to sell these things for a living, but man, I just love the look of these cars, as well as the NX. NX, in my opinion, the smaller version of this car, looks even better. This one does come with the 20-inch optional wheels. They look fantastic. You guys get a little close up. 20 inches, yo. You have since this is the 450h hybrid, you have obviously indicator back here. What's different about this one as the 2018? The 2018, you just touch it and it opens. This has an old school lever in the front by the the dash that is the lever that opens the gas cap. But this one, or the new ones, you just press and it opens. So this one has no exhaust tips because it is the hybrid. So they try to hide anything that's fossil burning in this vehicle, and they try to make it as eco-friendly as possible by removing those exhaust tips. If you want to see where the exhaust tip is, it's right there, because it's a hybrid. It does have a gas engine. There's the beautiful, so here's some details. RX, and this is in like a dark blue. It's a nice little color here. And then with any Lexus hybrid, it's a small but subtle touch, and it looks really good. It looks better in person than I think on camera, but the outline here is in that dark blue to designate it as a hybrid. You'll only see it on the hybrid models. The taillights are exquisitely detailed, and that's that's same for any Lexus. Now, I was kind of dogging on this guy in my NX review for the taillights because they don't come out quite as much as the NX, but I didn't realize that they do actually come out quite a bit. But from this angle here, as I was looking at it, they look completely flush with the vehicle, especially on this side. But you see it still pops out there. It just gives it a lot of character. It's all in the details. So let's get back into this tail light. So this is full LED tail light. This is gonna be your turn signal. Reverse light will be in here. And then I think this is your brake light. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't have any of the signals on right now. But it's great. These little fins, I mentioned this in some of my other videos. Those little fins here, as well as this little lip. Can you guys see that? Yeah, you can see it. Those are called Vortex Simulators. They're all around the car. This right here is also a Vortex Simulator. So this has functionality. A lot of people don't realize that, yeah, while that looks like a sweet spoiler, it prevents a lot of wind noise, a lot of wind buffeting. So when you're on the highway, it's not going to push the car around. It makes a more aerodynamic car, which increases fuel mileage as well. And it prevents wind from flowing around the back here and getting dust and dirt all over your back window. My parents have a big minivan, and its back window gets so dang dirty because there's no aerodynamics built in to prevent all that dirt and wind coming up and hitting the back of the car. So a lot of people, this is just another small detail that a lot of people don't know, is that the rear windshield wiper on the RX not the RXL, because I have seen it on the RXL and I don't know why, but the RX, where's the windshield wiper? Huh? Anyone know? Is it down here? Nope. It's hidden away up here. Can we see it? Yeah, there it is. So the windshield wiper is hidden away so that if snow piles on top of it, it can move. It can move around and push it around. So that's pretty cool. I just remembered why the RXL has one down here, and it's because the angle is different. The angle of the back is different. I think it's more upright. So snow doesn't collect on it as this one. This one has a more aggressive angle here. Let's finish the walk around. This does have the panoramic sunroof, which looks great. We'll get inside and look at it. We have some things you could clip on a roof rack too. Here's pretty neat. So the door handles, if you touch it, it will automatically unlock. The car's running right now, so it's unlocked. And then this would lock it. This little button would lock it. There are lights, and now I think it's an upgrade. It's an optional, but there are little LED lights. So when you walk up to the car when it's dark, when you walk up to it, it unlocks when you have the key, and then there are lights here that just kind of light up the handle, which is a nice little feature. Here is the rear light. Now, when I get into the 360 panoramic camera system, there's a camera here that looks on the side of the vehicle and kind of gives you an idea of where everything is at around the vehicle. And then we'll get back to the front here. We'll finish with the lights. These lights, this is the tri-beam LED headlight. They look awesome. They look super cool. So the low beams are on right now, and this looks solid. On the phone, it looks like it's giving you a funny flashing thing. It's a rave inside the headlights. It's not a rave. There's no music, and when you look at it with the naked eye, there's no flashing at all. You got some fog lamps there, and then the grill. Here's the spindle grill. Some people hate it, some people love it. There's some things I like about it, there's some things I don't. In some cars I think it's implemented better than others. Yeah, I'm starting to like it more and more. I'm not the biggest fan of the very bottom, how it gets so chunky down here and there's just so much reflective metal, plastic. It's plastic, there's so much reflectiveness of it. Not a big fan of that. I wish, and I know they will get away from it because it's a little ridiculous, but you know, right now in the camera it looks pretty sharp, but it's a subjective thing. Of course, I want to show you guys what's under the hood. What's under the hood of a hybrid? Well, there's going to be two motors. Lexus hybrid drive. So this is your 3.5 liter V6 in there. It runs on the Atkinson cycle, and that just gives it a lower compression ratio, and it's just a little bit more efficient. It's not quite as powerful as a normal V6 would be, but it is more efficient. Lots of stuff in here. I don't know what most of this stuff is. I'm not a mechanic, and I especially am a little out of place in a hybrid. But this looks like the electrical engine over here, the electrical motor of some sort. And I know on the 4-wheel drive version of these cars, which most of them are, they have another electrical motor in the back to spin the rear wheels. Look how easy that engine oil is. You're able to access it. When you put in the oil for an oil change, it looks like this car would be pretty easy for an oil change. So keep that in mind if you want this car. We're going to get into the rear cargo area. One touch, it'll lift up. Now we have the stroller in here. This is the stroller test. This is a big stroller. It's a double one. It does take up quite a bit of room. Now there would be more room back here if we took this out. If we took this rear piece out here, which I'm not going to do with one hand, I'm not going to attempt it. You could fit a lot more because this would slide back further, and of course there's your first aid kit. But this is a nice little feature because I could even hide the stroller. And you would never know there's a stroller back here, which is cool. But just know that this piece can take away from your maximum capacity back here. The seats will fold down. I'm not going to show that, but they fold down and there's a ton of space in this vehicle. This one does have the all-weather mats. As you can see, they're not installed in front, but here's the all-weather cargo mat, which is awesome because it's rubber, so things aren't going to be flying around back here. And then your switches for the seats are there. But I'm getting a little distracted. Hey, there's a 12 volt as well. Speaking of distracted. And yeah, that's about it. There are little lights back here. Switch, they turn on. I like the old school switches. That means, well, for me, it tells me that they're not always going to be on, which is cool. Because I hate when like little lights like that burn out. It's a lot of work to change it. And you have a big speaker back here. I don't know if it's a sub, but it is what it is. So since it is a hybrid, the engine will turn on and off and on as it's needed to run certain things in the car. So I have the car's on right now, but the engine's been off, and the engine just turned on because I have the AC running. My baby's sleeping in there, and it's so the engine just turned on. Kind of gave me a scare there, but that's normal for a hybrid, for the engine to turn off and on to run certain processes in the car. Get inside, let's check out the cabin. Okay, so this is the luxury model. This is the luxury package, I should say. This has like every single bell and whistle in it that you could want. I'm adjusting the headlights because I had turned the auto beams on so you could see those bright lights on the headlights. Okay, so let's start at the door. 3 memory settings here. There are no memory settings on the passenger. This does have auto folding mirrors here, so I'll go ahead and press that so you can see that fold in. Okay. But I'll just keep it on auto, so I pressed auto and it folded back out. There's just so much stuff going in here, especially since it is the luxury package. Let's go over the materials in here, and then we'll get into all the technical side of things. So a nice dark brown interior here. Since it is the luxury package, you have the upgraded interior. So everything in here is going to be a little bit more detailed than your non-luxury package. So luxury package, I believe, is all dark color here around the car. Also, I think you can only get this on luxury package as well. I don't know if it's the only one, but I know this, you can only get this in luxury, I'm pretty sure. And they have scored aluminum in this dark wood here. It's a really obscure name. It's like sable wood or something like that. I'll have to look it up for you guys and put it in the description. But this continued wood trim continues down here by the cup holders, and then you see it over there. It continues in the back as well when we get back there. So this is the parchment interior. I think it's a good contrast. Personally, I like having a lighter interior with a darker exterior, but you guys saw the exterior, and it's I believe it's silver lining metallic, which is like my least favorite RX color, but it's still better than that Hyundai's color right there. Hyundai, who would buy a Hyundai? Just kidding. They're decent cars. Anyways, nice polished handle here, and then you have this more flat looking plastic. It looks almost like metal though. You have that same plastic looking or metal looking plastic over here, and you have a huge gaping hole down here for your magazines and whatnot. This does not have the illuminated panel here, I don't believe. I looked to see if it lit up, and it might, but sometimes it doesn't, so I'm going to assume that this does not light up. That's an optional feature as well. Okay, so I mean, that kind of goes over the interior and the materials in here. I think it looks great. It looks really good. If I had my perfect RX, I don't really like the parchment color. It's very neutral. I would rather have it black or something, but I would definitely have a different color than the vehicle, than the silver lining metallic that you see in the side mirror. And so if I had a darker color, then I wouldn't mind this, but since it doesn't contrast or go very well with that silver out there, it's not my favorite. But I mean, it looks, I'm nitpicking. I drive a Toyota Avalon. I'm just trying to find some faults with this vehicle because there aren't many. This here we go. We go back to the wood trim steering wheel. It is the same wood as you see here on the door and on the cup holders. It's the same wood here in the middle. Good, nice polished finish here. And then you have heated, it's a heated steering wheel. So nice heated wheel as well with the leather that matches, the color actually matches the dash material. And this is leather, the dash is not. So the rest of the leather in this car is parchment, and then this here is brown. All right, so let's go over some features in this thing, and it has a lot. I'm not going to cover them all because we'd be here for days. Here, auto sensing headlights. I had to turn that off so I could demonstrate the headlights to you, but I turned it back on. And to do that, okay, so it's off. To turn on the auto high beams, you press this down, and then it says to activate auto high beam, switch headlights to high beam. So there's the switch. Flick it forward, and then you're good to go. You're good to go. Here's the heads-up display. I don't know why. Come on, focus. I don't know why you'd ever want to turn it off, but you can turn it off if you want. You can adjust the heads-up display. Let's adjust it. You can adjust the brightness. It's fully bright. I would recommend keeping it at fully bright. But here, I'm turning it down in brightness. Yeah, so I mean, you can't even see it. So I mean, it's good that they let you adjust it, but I would keep it all the way up. You can adjust the positioning of it, so you can lower it down, raise it back up. I'm pretty tall, so I like to have it about right there. And I think that's all you can do to adjust it. I don't think you can adjust anything else on it. Back down here, this is an awesome feature, and you got to be careful with this one. No, this is a safety feature, so I'm saying be careful. That's a little ironic. So when I got in this vehicle, this thing, so this is the panoramic camera, which is awesome. It's a super cool feature. It's not really necessary, but people don't buy an RX for necessary. They buy it because it's luxury, and it does a lot of cool things as well. But I'll press this button, and it's going to turn to the panel. It's scanning what's around the car, checking surroundings for safety. It's pretty cool. Let's have it stop, and then it's going to go over. So it paints a perfect picture, and you guys saw what the exterior of this car, or what it looked like around this car. So it's just a parking lot. But even, I mean, it's real because they're actual pictures. I showed that camera on the mirror, so that's actually what it looks like. Now, if I put this car in reverse, there we go. Okay, so you have it here as well, and I'll show here in a little bit as I'm driving and backing out of parking spots how it works. But it's super cool. It will give you projections on both screens, not only the rear monitor, but the top down, so you can see where your car's going to be going, which is so cool. It can be a little distracting because it's digitalized, and I'm so old school. Hey, there you go, in the heads-up display, R's on for reverse. That's pretty cool. I didn't notice that before. So here's that auto mode I was talking about. When I first got into this car, oh, it's beeping at me because it wants me to put my seatbelt on. So I'll put it on to spare you guys some craziness. So when I got in this car, before I had configured anything, this was auto on. And so what happens, and I'll demonstrate, is you drive around, okay, and then the monitor blacks out as it switches to the navigation. And as I come to a stop again, it blacks out and then goes to the camera. Now, I don't need to be seeing what the camera is showing me when I'm stopped. I just don't need to. And it's super distracting when the monitor blacks out to switch to this camera view. So I absolutely despise it when it is in auto mode. So just take auto mode off here. Then I'm driving again. I took auto mode off. Should black out. Go back to the normal one. I'm gonna go to a stop here. And it didn't switch the screen. Because what would happen is you come to a stoplight and that auto mode was on, and then your navigation goes off. And that's like the best time to look at your navigation sometimes, is when you're stopped, to kind of see what's around you. Nope. It would be blacked out looking at the panoramic camera. So just make sure to take auto off, unless for some strange reason you think you need it, but it's extremely distracting for me. And for me, it takes the navigation away from you when you need it sometimes the most. You can customize what's on the other end of the display here. You can have your music going, your phone. When you do Bluetooth, you can see your energy monitor and go through all of this. And this is all done by this mouse here, which they're getting away from. They're doing a trackpad. So you can see I'm doing 23 miles per gallon. Pretty good for an SUV, but this is the hybrid. So, but yeah, lots of information here. And, you know, it was driving me crazy because I'm like, there's no button that says like, oh, go to full screen. Because you can see here, there's no option for me, or at least no evident option to make my navigation full screen. All right. It's actually this button here to go full screen with your navigation, which I would prefer 99% of the time because it just looks really good. Now, speaking of looking really good, in person, this monitor is not flashing at all. In the camera, you're probably getting a seizure. I'm sorry for that. I should probably put a seizure warning on there. But it looks really good. Since this is the luxury package with the navigation, this is the 12.3 display, 12.3 inch display. It's huge. It's, as far as I know, no other luxury car maker makes a monitor this big. Let's go over some other features in this car. You have your ride controls. It does have an EV mode, so it'll stay electric only. And it says it's in EV mode right now because the engine's off. But it'll stay in this until you get, I want to say, past like 20 miles an hour. I feel like the engine kicks in and then it says EV mode disabled. But you can run an electric only up to a certain mile per hour. You can control, traction control will be off. And you can affect your ride modes, which this isn't going to get much sportier because it's a CVT, but in a hybrid. But if you have choices, and it will behave a little bit differently because of that. Eco mode probably is what you're most excited about in a car like this, because you're able to get such good gas mileage. Eco mode is going to prevent the engine from revving too high. And it will reduce the air conditioning. You won't be able to go max fans on the air conditioning in eco mode. This is loaded with fully auto ventilated and heated seats. This is the same stick that's in the regular RX, which is kind of surprising because in the CT200H, which is another Lexus hybrid, they have like this weird little knob. But I prefer this because this is just the same as any other car, right? Park, reverse, neutral, drive. And some of the other cars like the the LS500 that just came out, the newest model, it's a different knob that you have to like, over here for reverse, down for drive. This is just, you know, super straightforward. And the engine just kicked on and that EV button turned off, which means the engine's on. Whenever you turn a hybrid on, it just says ready, because it doesn't have like your traditional tachometer letting you know the engine's idling. But that's about it in the front. One of my favorite features is the adjustable cup holder. You could fit a nice frosty mug in there. And then one of my other favorite features is the pen holder here. You can put a pen in there. Yeah, you can see that. So you know where your pen is in your car, because everyone needs a pen. Obvious features in there: your 12 volt, your auxiliary, and your USB. So let's close this back up and let's head into the back seat. I mentioned earlier, my toddler is sleeping in here. She never sleeps in my car or my wife's car, but somehow when we take these Lexus home for the weekend and review them and get to know them, she sleeps in them forever. So that's, you know, the best time for me to do my review, when the kids are sleeping. My other girls was asleep too. She would still be asleep in here, but my wife was able to detach her from the car seat. This one is not detachable. Anyway, so let's get in the back here. Great detail on the door here, just as detailed as the front door. This does have a rear sunshade, so that's awesome, especially if you have kids, so they're not getting blinded by the sun. If you live in a real sunny area. But that's just a great feature to have. What else? There's tons of floor space. We left the groceries in here, and the reason why we put the groceries down there, that is a lot of space, by the way. The reason why we put the groceries down there is that the stroller, like I said, with that canopy cover, just takes up the majority of the rear cargo area. I would call it the trunk, but it's not really a trunk. You know what I mean. You know what I mean. So this car seat has like these little clips here, and it's really easy to put this car seat in. I'm not going to take her out, but I was able to put this thing in super fast because the clips are so superficial on the excuse me, so superficial on these seats. Whereas in the GX I had last weekend, I couldn't even find the clips. I had to watch a video and find where the clips are. They're under 2 layers of upholstery that are Velcroed down. But this made it super easy and super quick to move your child seats in and out. I didn't go over, so this does have the Mark Levinson 9,000 speaker setup. Now, when I say 9,000 speakers, they put a ridiculous amount of speakers in these cars. I never know what they are because it changes per model. Like the NX, I want to say, well, they don't even put a Mark Levinson in an NX, but it changes on each car. So like the LS has like a 23 speaker. This is probably like an 18 speaker, but that's a ton of speakers, and it's a fact you really don't need to know. But since it's a luxury package, it has these screens in the back. And I talked a little bit about it earlier in a different video clip. They stick out so freaking far. They're not built into the seat like a normal screen. They stick out. And I don't know why they would do that. And my seat, you know, it's the driver's seat. When I say my seat, it is like touching the bezel of the screen, which you don't want that to do because, you know, LCDs are, you know, you don't want to touch the LCD unless it's a touch screen. And even then, you don't want a car seat rubbing up against it because you don't want to, you know, cause wear on it. So if it was me getting this car and money was no option, I would not get those monitors. If it came with the car, it works. It works. As you can see, this seat's huge. It's rear facing, and it works. It's just, it's too tight fitting for my liking. And I would, if I wanted them to have screens, at this point in time I don't. In the future, I would just give them iPads. Like, let's be real. This is an old thing that was popular back in the day, maybe a decade or two ago, to have screens in your chairs. But with iPads now and nice tablets, they are antiquated. These are power folding seats, and so you would just mess with that from here. I can't do that because she's still sleeping with her R2-D2 that has ice cream chocolate stains on it from yesterday. But the seats are so comfortable. I didn't mention that in any Lexus, the seats are incredibly comfortable. Let's see what it looks like from this side. So tons of floor space. So, you know, if you have a massive stroller or the cargo's filled back here, then you can use the area back here. Even if you had an adult sitting back here, there's still a lot of leg room. What is nice about this back seat, of course you have your vents, you have heated rear seats. That's pretty cool. You have an HDMI function and individual volume. So you can plug in your headphones and then adjust the volume with these knobs by pressing them and spinning them. And then just plug in your HDMI there. So if you have like a PlayStation or a DVD player, so this is 100 watts. I don't know how many watts a PlayStation is, but you'd be able to plug in probably a DVD player, no problem in here. Plug it in, HDMI as well. And then you have this back here, your 12 volt, so you can, you know, have a car charger back here as well. There are no USB ports back here for charging your phone, but you could just put one of those adapters in here and charge down here. Sorry about that. But yeah, the back seat's comfortable. It fits 3 people, no problem, even if you have 2 car seats in it. A lot of people want to know if you can use the middle seat when you have 2 rear-facing seats in here, and the answer is yes. Even with the seats filled with children, of course I can fit in here as well. I am pretty tall. I'm over 6 feet, so my head with my hair all done up, it does touch the ceiling. So that's, you know, if you're going to a fancy place with your kids, maybe you should be in the front seat if you don't want to mess up your hair and you're tall. But that's extraordinarily rare situations, and if you have a smaller child, let's say a 10-year-old that you want to fit back here, there'd be no problem at all. So with the entertainment package and the 2 extra screens back here, and if you have 2 rear-facing seats, it's a very, very tight fit. So the front seats are pulled almost all the way forward. This seat does not slide any farther back. And you can see, I mean, it's not rubbing against the screen here. It's really hard to see because it's a darker morning, but there's hardly any space between the screen and the child. But these would be awesome in the future. Once these girls go to front-facing seats, then they can utilize the screens, okay? But if you have rear-facing children, know that this probably isn't the best option for them. And in the future, if you wanted to have screens, you could just get something like buy an iPad and just get a holster to connect it to the seat. Is it going to look as good? It's not going to have as good as fit and finish as these monitors, but it's going to have way more practicality because you can take those screens out and move around with them. They can do a lot more than this screen. But they do hook up into an HDMI system in the back, so it would be cool if let's say you bring your DVD player with you or your PlayStation, and then you could play it on these monitors as well. Okay guys, let's go over the beautiful panoramic sunroof. Gonna make sure it's all the way closed up, and you just do that by pressing this button forward. Of course, I'm gonna show you what it looks like all the way open. So that would be the tilt function. This is gonna be the shade. So it's automatic, so I'm in the back seat. We're just gonna watch it open all the way up. And if you're in the back seat, like, this is amazing. You don't really appreciate it in the front seat, especially when you're driving. You're looking forward, you're not looking up. But my 2-year-old daughter, when I put her back here, the first thing she noticed is she pointed up. Like, she's like, oh my gosh, I can see outside in the real world, which is cool. So here's a different angle of that panoramic sunroof. It's big. It's big. I would say it covers maybe about half or a little bit more than half of the entire roof. And so it's It's probably about a foot in front of my head, and I'm reclining all the way back on the back seat. A foot in front of my head, so my head would be like here, and then the panoramic sunroof starts, so you can see really, really well. Let's play with the tilt functionality. Okay, so you just hold it and then it opens all the way up. So they combine the tilt and the opening into one function. Okay, so you can see we're outside the car. It's now one function. So let's push it again. One touch, it's gonna close. And then it tilted down on its own. So, okay, let's see here if we can get it to stop. Okay, so I got it just to tilt only. You can do it. It just likes to automatically open up all the way. But you can see it's tilted. But, I mean, what's the point of tilting? I don't get it. If you guys tilt your sunroof, I guess the only purpose of it would be for venting, but you might as well just open up the whole dang thing. And I guess you could do it while it's raining. You could have it tilted while it's raining, but I don't know. I think it's a little superfluous. Word of the day for me. And let's just watch it close all the way back up. One touch. And this shade closes all the way up. And it's a big shade. It's like 3 feet across. I mean, that's how big the sunroof is. So, it's big. And if you can afford the option to have the panoramic sunroof, I think it's one of the best things you can put on this car. So we're backing out of the driveway right now, and you can see the panoramic camera here that shows all areas around the car. This is telling me that something is close to my front right, and that's just part of the landscaping that's close to there. But it's cool that it comes to a three view monitor here when you're backing out. Of course, this is going to be your projector backing out, but we're just going to back out, and then you can see how the camera, even in the middle, updates as you're backing out, which is really, really cool. And it looks like everything is fine, obviously. But the backing out here is something pretty cool. So where this would come in the best in the middle is if you're in a parking lot and you want to know maybe how close you are to another vehicle. This is going to let you know because the rear view camera only shows what's behind you, where the panoramic is going to show everything around the car, which is really good for backing out, or if you're in, I don't know, a construction zone and you have to like squeeze by. This would be a great option to make sure that it's on so you can see everything around the car. Okay, so as you can see outside, it's plenty bright out and the screen is still on night mode, so I can barely make out anything on it. So what you're gonna have to do is you're gonna have to use the mouse and go to display here and go to day mode. All right, and now I can see everything a little bit better. Let's go back to map, and then you can see the map is now with the white background. It's still a little dark in my opinion, and I don't think there's any way you can adjust the brightness. It is auto sensing. Okay, so we just figured out why the screen was so darn dark. Is that the sensor for the screen is here on the dash. It's this little circular, semicircular dome. That is the light sensor for your monitor and your display. So depending on how much light that's getting, your screen brightness will be affected, and also your heads-up display will be affected as well, the brightness of it. And so what happened is that we had our dealer plate over that little light sensing dome, and the screen was almost completely dark and it was really hard to see. So the screen thought it was pitch black out. But you know, a lot of people keep things on your dash, papers, or you know, if you're on a trip, you're gonna put magazines up there. Look at this shelf; it's crazy how much stuff you can put on it. So just keep in mind, like if you don't know why the screen is so dark, it's probably because you have something over that little light sensing dome. So what's also cool about this panoramic camera is that it tells you how good of a parking job you did. So as I'm backing out, yeah, I'm perfectly parallel to the white lines, but I'm a little bit closer to that one. So I would give it like a B. So as that Land Rover was passing behind us, you probably heard something beeping while I was speaking as well. And that, oh, there's something else. So this Jeep's going behind us, and you heard that beep again. And what that is we come over here, that RCTA that's lit up in the top left, that stands for Rear Cross Traffic Alert. And that's going to let you know, obviously, when a car is coming. And sometimes I feel like I hear the beep before I see the car coming. So it is, the range of it's really, really good. And here we have an RX 350. You want to, okay, so it's coming. So let's see how close it is when it, okay, so he was pretty close to us when it went off. But what also happened is that in the mirror here on the edge, where the blind spot monitor alert system is, that also was blinking and flashing on the side that car was coming from. So the cross traffic alert system is awesome, and I totally recommend you guys get that. So the brakes on the hybrid, in my opinion, I don't know if it's true or not, but they feel more responsive. And the brakes in this, how they differ is that they are regenerative. So when you brake, and I'm gonna pull this up here. When you brake, there will be blue bars coming from the wheel to the battery, letting you know that it's charging the battery. So hopefully we'll get a chance to see that here coming up. On the monitor, we'll get into the brakes here in a little bit again. But you can see that the engine with the yellow or the orange means it's power leaving the engine, okay? Or the orange here says it's power leaving the battery and it's going to the wheels to support the engine for driving. So my wife used to have a Prius and had very similar functionality. This seems more basic than what sometimes you find in a Prius. There's more information, but really this is all you need. So we have a red light coming up here, and we're gonna test the brakes a bit. And there you see, even when I got off the gas, it was recharging the battery, but especially when I get into the brakes, it's gonna charge it a little bit better. So the performance of this car, if you're talking about acceleration and engine performance, it is almost identical to the non-hybrid version. This does have more horsepower. This has 308 horsepower, where the standard V6 only, the non-hybrid, has 295. This has a CVT transmission, and some people don't like it. I actually like it quite a bit. It is a little weird driving at first, because when you've driven an automatic transmission for the majority of your life, you're waiting for the gears to change, and that never happens in a car like this. But acceleration is just fine. I actually prefer it, and this is just a subjective thing. I actually prefer it over the 10-speed transmission, and the reason for that is that in mid-turn, or when you just lay into the gas, it gives you instant power and torque, especially from that electric motor. Whereas in the 10-speed, if you hit the gas and you're trying to accelerate, it'll downshift twice, and the shifts are not that quick. So there is a delay to get into the power for the standard model, but for the hybrid, it's instantaneous. All right, here we go. So green light, we're gonna get onto the accelerator a little bit. Mid-turn. So when you get onto it mid-turn, if you want to hit the accelerator as you're coming out of your turn, that's what I like the best about the hybrid and its performance, is that power and the torque is immediately there. And I have to slow down. I was going almost 70 there, and this Nissan Juke, yes, the Juke was a little too slow for my liking. But I just love that you don't have to wait for a downshift to get that extra power. With the electric motor and the CVT, when you get on the gas, there's no delay. It's just right there. And that's what I like best about this hybrid. So we're gonna take this turn here pretty strong. Accelerate out of it. Oh yeah, goodness. And I wasn't even at full throttle, and that was surprising how much torque there is immediately when you want it. Just an awesome setup. And the great thing about this, so not only do I prefer the performance of the hybrid over the 10-speed 3.5 liter and the non-hybrid. I got on the brakes hard there and it was perfect. Not only do I like the performance better on this, it's gonna get me, so right now I'm averaging 23 miles per gallon, and that's city only, with a little bit more drive. So the longer I keep driving it, it keeps going up. But 23 with better performance, yeah, it does cost a little bit more than your standard RX 350. There is a little bit of premium. I'll have to give you guys that price tag in the annotations, but I don't know it off the top of my head. In my opinion, it's well worth it. And you know, a lot of people are concerned about, oh, what if the batteries go out? Because you know, my wife, like I said earlier, had a Prius. The batteries went out on that thing twice, and that may have been just like a freak happenstance, because from what I've been hearing recently about the Toyota hybrids, they've come a long ways since. What model was yours?
2008.
Okay, so that's still pretty new. But they keep making strides in their hybrid technology and their battery technology. They still use the nickel batteries in these Lexus hybrids. They don't do the lithium-ion ones because the longevity of these batteries is a lot better. And I've heard stories of these hybrids going over 300,000 miles on the original battery pack. And not only that, so with the hybrid setup, you don't have to worry about a serpentine belt, because the power steering, the compressor for the air conditioning, as well as the alternator, they're all run off of the battery in this vehicle. So you don't have to worry about the belt going out and then your power steering's gone and then your air conditioning's gone. That'll never happen as long as the battery's good. And then from like what I've been saying, the longevity of these batteries, and these, especially the Lexus brand, is second to none. So in any RX, the ride quality is really good. You sit really high off the ground. So we live in the Midwest. In the Midwest, you know that the roads are absolutely terrible. Brakes, testing the brakes here, hitting them perfectly. Very, so back to the brakes real quick. The brakes are very linear, just like any Toyota product. They feel better in here than they did in the NX. So I did a review on the NX 200T earlier this week, a couple days ago. And when I got on the brakes hard there was some vibration in the pedal, and they weren't quite as strong as they are in the RX. But like I said, I feel like in the hybrid model, the brakes are even stronger. Now, I don't know if they are or not, but since they are regenerative brakes, you get this cool sound when you're slowing down. It starts from a high pitch and then it goes down to a lower electronic pitch. And I don't know if it's the sound that makes it feel like the brakes are working harder, but it just sounds really cool. So I'm gonna get onto it and be quiet. I don't know if you guys heard that. I know my wife heard it, but it's a really cool sound that, you know, it just tells you, it gives you audible feedback that the car's slowing down, and not only just the you know, the gravitational pull that's slowing you down as well. So back to the ride quality. It's quiet, supremely quiet. I've been doing this review, and there's no problem. You have no problem hearing me. The glass, and so if you didn't know, the glass on these Lexuses is second to none. They're double pane on the windows. There's lots of technology that goes into these windshields up here. These are some of the most expensive windshields you can buy because they're so well insulated. So my wife pointed out, because I just asked her, you know, what's her feel? How does this car feel compared to the GX that we were driving last weekend? She's like, well, it feels a little bit bumpier. maybe a little bit louder compared to the GX. Now the reason for that is that this car is sitting on 20-inch wheels. It's an option for this model, whereas that GX, I think it has like 16 or 7-inch wheels, but the tires are so much thicker on that SUV. So that one's really more of an off-roading vehicle, and when you have a thicker tire, that insulates the sound a little bit, so you're not going to hear as much road noise when you have a thicker wheel. So the bigger the wheel size, the smaller the tire is going to be, and the more bumpy the ride's going to feel, and possibly the louder it's going to be as well. But from what I just did, I did a little bit of research yesterday, and Lexus is and Toyota for that statement. The whole company, they're doing a lot of research on redesigning the alloy wheels so that they make less noise, and so that technology is being built into the metal itself to reduce the road noise, so it's not as loud if you have a low profile tire. This should sum it up for the review of the 2016 RX 450h hybrid luxury crossover from Lexus. This is the third iteration, and it's better than ever. It first came out in 2005. They redid it in 2010, and then the 2016 version, as you guys see here, which is every bit as current as the 2018 in terms of technology and styling, etc. It's an incredible vehicle. I can't stress enough, if you want this vehicle, give it a test drive. See how you like it. I love the brakes, I love the acceleration. The handling's good enough for a vehicle of this size. The versatility is hard to argue with. It fits kids very well. It sleeps them just as well. This girl does not take naps. This girl does not take naps. She naps during the weekday at school, but on the weekends she never naps for mom and dad. So if you want your kids to nap, buy an RX. If you want them to nap even better, buy the hybrid, because there's less engine noise. But that's it, guys. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. This is an exquisite vehicle, and give one a test drive. You'll love it.